Awesome. So in today's training, we're just going to review how you can create, manage, and delete your users in Tripleseat, along with customizing those user roles so they make the most sense for your business. So let's kick it off here by going to Settings in your lower left sidebar, and then going to Users in the upper right of your screen. In the main portion of this page, you'll find all of your users represented as rows, with columns for their name, their email address, their job title, as well as their user role. If one of your users has access to multiple Tripleseat locations, you can hover over the location count to preview where specifically they can view in Tripleseat. In addition, you'll find these tools at the top of the page to help you slice through the data. Right, so you could search for someone by their name or email address. You could filter to only look at users at one of the locations where you work. And you can also filter by user role. You may notice here at the top, there's another checkbox which you can use to display users who have been suspended. Say, for instance, Betty was furloughed at some point during the pandemic and you suspended her account. You can quickly pull her back up by using the checkbox at the top of the page. And say, for instance, she's starting back up at your business. You could reactivate her by clicking onto her name. You'll find in the upper right, there's a checkbox you can use to make her active again. And if it's been a while since the last time she signed into Tripleseat, you can even use these fields to create a custom password for her. That way, when you click update at the bottom of the page, Betty could go to login.tripleseat.com, enter her email on file, and use the password that you've manually created to sign in again for the first time in a while. So let's make her active and click update. Right now, you'll see her in your list of users here now that we've made her active again. Another question we've been hearing more of recently has been how to add a new user in Tripleseat. For this, we can use the button in the upper right of our page for new user. We can start by providing the first and last name of your new team member. And let's say the person you're adding, you've just hired a new event planner. You'll want to give her an email address, and you'll notice you can add multiple emails for a user. Willa, in this case, if we added multiple, could sign into Tripleseat using either email address. However, all notifications and guest emails will send from Tripleseat to that primary email on file. So just be sure to make that her preferred email address. In the title field, you can put her job title. And you can also designate a phone number as well. Now on the right, there are two more checkboxes you can select when creating a user. If you set sales goals in Tripleseat and plan to assign a sales goal for Willa, you would want to select this Show Sales Activity box. That will ensure when she signs into Tripleseat, she'll see that sales goal on her dashboard along with her progress against that goal. The other option is the Daily Digest email. This is selected by default. It's that daily message about the events, leads, and tasks at their location for the day. And if it's just someone who signs into Tripleseat to run reports, you can leave that unselected or you can keep it checked off. In the lower section of this new user screen is how we can define what Willa can and cannot do in Tripleseat. The first option would be to select this checkbox here to make her a customer admin. As we're about to find out, user roles in Tripleseat are wildly customizable. but the customer admin option is the only one whose name and function cannot be adjusted. That's because the customer admin is the highest level of permissions available. Unlike other admin role, the customer admin can set up an integration between Tripleseat and an online payment processor, and it's the only role who can unequivocally adjust the scope of other user roles. Now, Will is just an event planner, so she should not be a customer admin. But even if she did need some access to settings, I would still recommend not assigning her this customer admin role. This audience, more than most, can appreciate what happens if there are too many chefs in the kitchen. So for best practice, we recommend designating that highest level of access to only a few users. Instead, what we're going to do is select the locations that she should have access. You'll notice that as soon as we check off a location, the drop-downs above and to the right unlock. All right. Now we can assign a user role to Willa from one of two categories. First, we'll use the default role dropdown at the top of the page, or the top of this area. Here you will see the global user roles available at your venue. Global roles allow for the most customization around what one can and cannot access, and it should be the primary way you define user functionality. If you only have one location in Tripleseat, you should only ever select from the global roles in this dropdown. If you have 10 locations in Tripleseat, but the user you are creating only works at one business, you would still only use right select from the default role dropdown. Now, the second type of role you can give somebody is a location-based role. These are designed for multi-location groups whose users work at multiple businesses and need different levels of permissions at some compared to others. Compared to the global roles we previewed in the default role dropdown above, these location-based roles are far less customizable, so they're ideal for giving more limited access to a second or third location. So what does that mean? Let's pretend Willa, her primary place of employment is at this bagel shop. Because this dropdown to the right of the location says default, right, that is going to pull the general user role that we've assigned her above. However, maybe she needs to submit leads for the trattoria and for this fondue shop. You can use the dropdown to the right of those two locations to assign her that more limited leads only option. Then at the bottom of the page, we're going to click Create. All right. Awesome. When we click Create and Willa then appears in our list of users, that action is going to send her an email with the information she needs to sign into Tripleseat for the first time. Now, the flip side to adding users would be suspending folks. So there will be times at your business when you do have to revoke people's access in Tripleseat. Let's say Dominique, for instance, no longer works at the company. If we click onto her name, we can review the two ways we can suspend her access in Tripleseat. So one way to prevent her or to revoke her access would be to deselect that checkbox for this user is active and click Update at the bottom. As we saw earlier, this action means that you can quickly show Dominique should you ever need to restore her in Tripleseat. And we refer to this as suspending, right? So we would just deselect and update. The other option for revoking someone's access would be to delete them entirely. Compared to suspending a user, this action is more drastic and cannot be reversed from your end. If you knew for sure Dominique was not coming back to the business, You could delete her entirely by using this delete user button in the upper right with that trash can right there. This action will prompt you to reassign all of Dominique's events, contacts, leads, tasks to another person on the team. If your business pays employees on a commission-based structure, do keep in mind that because all of her events are transferring to someone else, it will look like that other person has done more in sales than is accurate. All right, I'm going to give us just a minute to make sure if people have questions, they have an opportunity to get those answered. Let's see here. Cool. Excellent. So now we're going to pivot to the second half of today's training, in which we discuss the types of roles available and how you can customize those for your team. For this, we're going to click Settings in the left sidebar, and then use the User Roles button towards the top. Because user roles are customizable, the names and number of roles that you find on your own page may differ. But when we first set up companies with Tripleseat, the page looks like so. It's divided in half, with your global roles aptly placed at the top. As we mentioned earlier, your global roles are what you see when you use that default role dropdown. They are robust, customizable options, and they should be the primary way you give someone access in Tripleseat. In the lower portion of the screen, you'll find those location-based roles. These are less customizable and can be given to provide someone limited access to a second or third location. Another question we've been hearing more of recently is how to increase the level of permissions for an existing user role. So let's pretend, right, maybe your junior admin already had some access in settings, but you'd like to increase their level of access so they can contribute more with managing the tools your entire team relies on. If you click on the name of the user role, you'll arrive to that page where you can make adjustments. All right. So from here, we can change the scope of permissions using checkboxes and dropdowns. And you'll also notice that as we scroll down, you'll find these helpful reference boxes in blue with more information explaining what each type of permissions mean. So let's start here in settings. In order for someone to have any access in settings, you first have to select, right, the settings at the very top. Perhaps previously they helped add your pick list, but now you want them to update and manage email templates, create custom fields, and help with automatic tasks. And maybe they also help you with your content templates. Simply check off the box to where in settings you'd like them to be able to view and edit. Wherever you see a checkbox, that gives someone the ability to view and edit. If we scroll down on the page, we'll notice, right, users and user roles looks pretty familiar. I'm going to give her the option or the ability, this role, this junior admin, the ability to manage users, but perhaps, right, I don't want her to go to that settings user roles page. It's too much functionality for a junior admin. Now you'll notice that for accounts and contacts as well as events, here instead of checkboxes, you'll find dropdowns. You'll notice that the drop-down options go from the least amount of access to the most, right? So if we start with view accounts and contacts, right, they can just view. Maybe they need to create and view. Edit would be, right, view, create, and edit, even if they themselves did not create the contact. And the highest level would be to delete accounts and contacts. Because this person is taking more of a leadership role, right, I'm going to give them the full level of access, and the same for events they already have, administer all events. They already have the most level of access for leads, so I'm going to keep that the same. But maybe for tasks, right now they can only see their own and other people's tasks, but perhaps I want them to make sure past tasks are being closed out. I'm going to change their permissions in this dropdown here. Right, and you could go through each of these options and customize as desired. But what's really important here, guys, is at the very bottom of this page for any user roles. Even if you never create a custom user role from scratch, you probably will have to update document access. If you create a new document template and or layout, you would have to update existing user roles to make that available. So junior admin could use this catering document set and its constituent layouts. If the role needs to be able to create and edit docs for the event, right? So to add pick list items, notes, etc., you need to make sure the template name is selected. And then you can come through and select which layouts they should have visibility into as well. In this case, we want to give access to everything. But if this were a chef user role, right, maybe they don't need to be adding pick list items and adding notes to the event, but they do need to see the pack sheet and the menu. That would be a case where you would only give them access to the layout and not to the document template. Then when we click update at the very bottom, this is going to change the scope of permissions for all folks with that junior admin user role. Now let's check out one of these location-based roles, maybe the one for leads only. You'll notice on this page, there are far fewer places where we can define the level of access. Maybe instead of leads only, we also want to give folks with this location-based role the ability to simply view events. We could use that same logic. We could use that dropdown, give the most limited access, and then we can decide what they should be able to view for an event. So maybe they just need to see notes, and then financials and uploads. When you make a change like this, sometimes it's helpful to update the role title. And then we could click update at the very, very bottom. Now let's fast forward in time and say maybe it's been a few months and Willa, that user we've created a short while ago, she's about to get a promotion. To drive all of this home, all of this we've just discussed together, let's go back to settings, users, and make an update to her page. All right, so Willa, I'm going to click onto her name. Now, instead of being a general user, she's really been a great asset, and I want to change her default role from general user to junior admin. This change will only impact her access at that Bagels by Aleja store, because that is the only place where she has her global user role as junior admin. At the Trattoria and the Fondue Shop, each of those, she'll only have the more limited leads and events access, that location-based role we previewed a minute before. And we're going to click update at the very bottom to save. All right, so there we have it. We've just walked through the content that I have prepared for you. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. And as a final tip, when you promote users to a role with more settings access, feel free to recommend our other webinar about settings, customizations, and tools. That's a great starting point. So if you're trying to help your teammates contribute more in Tripleseat and help manage those tools, that's a great webinar to help them get familiar with everything they can do within settings. All right, so I'm going to give us a few minutes and then see if there are any other questions that need answering. All right. Okay, I think we're good here. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending part of your day with us, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. And be sure to reach out to support if you have more questions, all right? Thank you so much. Bye, guys.